It only took a year for Pokémon to return to the Alola region, but not in a traditional third game like Emerald or Platinum previously, or even with direct sequels like Black and White 2. This time they decided to go with a pseudo sequel, or maybe more accurately a reimagining of the events of Sun and Moon. So let's take a look and see how Pokemon Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon stand out from their previous outing. I'll be playing Ultra Sun for this video, and be doing a Nuzlocke, and you should know what that is at this point. Unlike the iconic chicken hat of the original, I reckon the male and female pro tags this time around look like absolute weenies, so since I went with the chicken girl and moon, I'll go with the guy here. The start plays out one for one with the original, a video call with Kukui on our way to Alola from Kanto, the literal only difference being Lily being cornered by two of these space-looking people along with the Aether Foundation members. This time, we wander into the tall grass, about to be attacked by a Yungoos when the Alolan starters come in to scare it off. Then we get asked by Kukui to pick one, a lot quicker way of getting into this, I must say, and as much as I love Rowlet, I did choose him in the last video, so doing it again would be a bit boring, so I decided to choose Poplio this time around, naming him Honko on account of its big fat clown nose. We quickly bump into How and have our first battle, things again playing out entirely the same. With one exception, we get to battle the Spearow harassing Nebby rather than it being entirely contained to a cutscene. Cut to the next day and we get held at gunpoint for the capture tutorial, as you do, and we finally get some Pokeballs to begin the Nuzlocke properly. The first caught Pokemon of the run was a Grubbin I named Sunny, and on the way to Icky Town we bump into those two Spacies. I don't know what to call them. They don't say what they're called for a good while, so Spacies for now, that's what you get named. They talk about something called the Blinding One before stomping off. Their walking animation is very strange. And I decided to count this area as a catch route too after some research since I can't access any other place beyond this point. I got a Yungoos I called Dory because of their Dorito-shaped teeth. And one battle with How and a sleep later, we get access to a new area since we need to travel to Kukui's place. I got an Inkay here, which is cool since, spoilers for Legend ZA, Mega Malamar has just been revealed at the time of recording. Events continue to play out exactly the same, although there has been one small gameplay change. We now have a new feature called Totem Stickers, these little gold stickers that are dotted all around the Alola region. And it's good to collect these. We'll understand the importance of them later on in the video, but we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. By the time we get into a battle against Team Skull with How instead of when seeing Ilma, I've got a full party being Marinza the Inkay, Sunny the Grubbin, Dory the Yungoos, Pomni the Mime Jr., Shadow the Zorua, and Honko the Poplio. It was time to battle Ilma, and thankfully everything went smoothly, and we now have a new area on Route 2, a path down to the beach that was made by this one guy in his absolute unit of a Crabrawler. I had my first loss of the run here, so I replaced Marinza with Sage the Ghastly. When we get near the Verdant Cavern for our first trial, the player gets introduced to a new mechanic on the Rotom Dex. Roto Lotto happens when the eyes of the Rotom Dex flash on the bottom screen, giving the player a random buff. With the loss of Sage, I managed to clear the first trial and got the normal Z Crystal. Right after we get actual names for the space people, Zossi and Dulce? They're very strange names, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing them correctly. Anyway, they're part of the Ultra Recon Squad, although they only state that they're researching the trials. Given their name, it seems likely they're linked to Ultra Space or the Ultra Beast in some way. I replaced Sage with a Zubat I got in the cave I named Blonde. There also just seems to be random instances where you get buffs on the Rotom Dex, no matter what, even if you don't press the eyes, so that's something. We find Nebby in a small cave inside the flowery field this time, and actually get to battle one of the Ultra Recon squad, and in the same cave we have our first evolution in the run, Pomni evolving into Mr. Mime. I lost Blown to the Ace Trainer on Route 3, but Honko evolved from it, so swings and roundabouts in it. In comes Delia the Spearow, perfect for the fighting type kahuna. I was so confident, in fact, that I didn't bother to look at its moves. And when I did, which was during the actual battle, I discovered it didn't know any flying type moves, and promptly got one-shotted by Machop. Bit embarrassing. Thank God I had Pomni and Honko to wipe the floor with his team, though. I added Jesse the Ekans and did a run through of the island, specifically for parts that I couldn't access because I didn't have the Taurus pager, which I do now. A pretty cool addition: when you grab the Flyinium Z at 10 Carat Hill, which you can do much earlier than in the original game, we get a little cameo of Kahili to teach us how to use it. If only they gave her a personality instead of a little dance move. Oh well. The photo mode is expanded a bit more with a dedicated shop you can take photos with your Pokemon in, but it's not something I personally care about. I've never really been fussed about photo modes in games, honestly. It's time to move on to the next island, but there's now a new way to get around: Mantine surfing. The idea is to build up speed to launch off a wave to catch big air and perform tricks. It's honestly a really fun minigame, but I wish it had more direct rewards than just points you can exchange for things. And you need a lot of points, so it doesn't really feel that worth it. So far, the changes compared to the original Sun and Moon have been extremely minor, the only real noticeable difference, other than what I've pointed out already, being the expansion of available Pokemon, and that's something I'm a big fan of, especially since I'm playing a Nuzlocke here. The bigger amount of Pokemon per route the better, as far as I'm concerned. I think the variety makes things more entertaining, Nuzlocke or not. It's part of why randomizer runs are particularly fascinating to me. I've never tried one myself, but it's something I've always wanted to do. Perhaps I'll go back and do some for the channel. Let me know if that's something you'd be interested in. Anyways, a new area on Route 4 is Pikachu Valley. Literally just a place to hang out with a bunch of Pikachus. It's cute, but why is it here? I don't know. I lost Dory the Yungoos in the second trial, but Sunny evolved into a Charger Bug. I added Klee the Eevee that hatched from the nursery egg, and we soon battled Dulce again, this time with a brand new Pokemon, an Ultra Beast named Poipole. On another note, we finally have a use for the totem stickers that we've been collecting. By speaking to Samson Oak, who we meet much earlier than in Sun and Moon, he actually provides the player with a totem Pokemon, the first one being the Gumshoos that we beat as part of the first trial. During the fire trial, Klee evolved into an Umbreon, and Honko made the battles a non-issue. I decided to bench Klee for now, since Shadow has the Dark type covered, and I added the totem Gumshoos that we got instead. On Route 8, the game forces you to interact with a slightly updated Festival Plaza, which I kinda get. The game wants you to make sure that you know about the features, but it's all online, so it's completely meaningless now, since the internet functions for the 3DS games are now no longer available. On catching the Pokemon for this route, a Trumbeaker named Ant, I foolishly lost my new totem guy, so I changed it into a Fletchling, which quickly evolved into Fletchinder that I named BBQ, since it fixes some holes in my team and will be great for the upcoming grass trial. And it was surprisingly tough. The Kecleon ended up being way more of a pain in the arse than I thought it would, but I managed to pass Mallow's trial with only the loss of Jessie the Ekans, although she was great at stalling the totem Pokemon. Rest in peace. I added Try the Alolan Diglett while making my way through the tunnel named after it, and it lasted all of 2 seconds. I'm getting some real deja vu here. So in comes Fiona the Steenie for some much needed grass coverage. We meet Looker much earlier too, just outside the Diglett tunnel rather than in the post-game, and he mentions being worried about rumours of an infamous Pokemon Mafia returning, but that's not important right now. We've got a Thunderstone, and inside the police station, one of the officers turns out to be a Ditto, fully disguised as a human, way before Pokopia made it a thing. On that note, it was just announced, but I have real beef with that name. It is so dumb. Poketopia was right there. You're making a town for the Pokemon to live in, presumably. It's like Balan Wonderworld all over again. But call it Wonderland. I mean, that game's shit, but still. Wonderworld sounds dumb, call it Wonderland. Like Poke. See, it's so stupid and dumb to pronounce. Pokopia, Poketopia. It's a way better title. I'm sorry, I went on a big tangent there. It just personally irks me. Apparently, there's a group called the Ditto 5 that are well known for pretending to be humans, just because they like to be silly. I've noticed that little side quests like these are much more frequent compared to the original games, and I like it. It gives the region a vibe of feeling more alive for me. As well as the evolution stones you can buy in Olivia's shop, we now get a choice of fossils that we can revive. In this case, the fossils that revive Cranidos, Tortuga, Omanyte, Anorith, and Tyrant respectively, as if she couldn't be more of an absolute queen. This was honestly a really tough choice. I ruled out Tyrant since he was a big part of my Gen 6 team, and in the end I went with Anorith, and then when I went to make my purchase, I realised they meant you can only take one, as in you couldn't buy repeats. So the good 5 minutes I spent thinking it meant you can only get one of the fossils and the rest were cut off meant nothing. God damn, I'm stupid. So yeah, I bought them all. In any case, we battle Plumeria and Olivia and clear both with no losses, moving on to the Grand Hotel, where we witness both a Pikachu celebrity and a Pikachu wedding. There's a lot more Pikachu-specific events in the Ultra games. I'm unsure why, aside from, obviously, mascot privileges, but they're cute, so whatever. And then, we move right on to the Aether Paradise. We fight Nihilego the same as before, except Lucamine's speech is more so about the protection of Alola itself, rather than extending control over things guised as motherly love to Pokemon, although that aspect of her character is still present. Anyway, new island time. The new addition to Ula Ula is an honest-to-God Pokemon gym, based on Lieutenant Surge's. Why they decided to copy the worst Kanto gym, I'll never know, but whatever. It's just this as a one-off, and I get why. Trials are obviously the focus of Alola, and they want them to have the spotlight, but I wish there was just like one or two more gyms dotted around the islands. And inside this gym, Pobney extracting, guys. No! I was struggling to decide on the new team member, but I eventually landed on Scanty the Phantom, who sadly didn't even last one battle, so in comes Bobble the Cranidos. After some grinding, I advanced to take on the Electric Trial, my team now being Bobble the Rampardos, Fiona the Serena, Sunny the Chargerbug, Shadow the Zoroark, BBQ the Fletchinder, and Honko the Brione. Molyane greets us just like before, except now he just gives us the Steel-type crystal instead of having to battle him, letting us proceed right on to Sophocles' trial. Instead of the audio quiz, we have to set up these Chargerbugs in patterns to summon the Totem Pokemon. The Totem Togedemaru was harder than I thought it was going to be, but once I managed to burn it, it was just a matter of time until I won. BBQ bravely sacrificed himself to complete the trial though. But lucky for me, I had just earned enough totem stickers to grab another totem Pokemon, an Alola Marowak, which filled the recent gap in my team very nicely. And after some quick grinding to get Clubber up to speed and evolving Honko into Primarina, I went back to meet with Kukui and Mally Garden. I went back up to the mountain right after because I forgot about the Ace Trainer there, and promptly regretted it because I lost Bobble the Rampardos. Fuck it, Poketopia the Ditto, welcome aboard. And I'm immediately throwing him into the deep end, fighting against Guzma, and it got critted by Golisopod and died on turn 1. Oh dear. They added something very interesting at the end of this battle though. The Team Skull boss has a quick word with Hao, stating that just because his grandfather is a kahuna doesn't mean he has to go on the same path, and he might not get what he wants at the end of it, showing sooner than in the original that there's more to Guzma than we know. And you can tell it clearly has an effect on Hao. To replace Poketopia, I added Ant the Trumbeak and did some grinding to evolve it into a Toucannon. And it's here on Blush Mountain that something dope finally happened. Not only did I catch a Torkoal as my Pokemon for this area, but Sunny finally evolved into a Vikavolt, one of the coolest bug types in Gen 7, a region filled with cool new bugs actually. In the original Sun and Moon, Chargerbug can only evolve on Pony Canyon, the final island, so Realizing the Charger Bug would not be pulling its weight and Vikavolt wouldn't have as much of a chance to shine so late into the game, Game Freak changed their minds and had it possible to evolve here at a much more reasonable point in the game, about the same level as most Pokemon would. They even have a Charger Bug catchable here, right where it would evolve to make sure that players had the biggest chance of knowing about the change. Outside of the road of the Pokemon League, we bump into the Ultra Recon Squad again to get more info about their objective. In their world, an area called Megaropolis houses Necrozma. However, the seals in place are growing weaker and the Pokemon is growing more desperate to consume light, so they've travelled to Alola in an attempt to discover ways to stop its rampage, as the Tapus defeated Necrozma once before. I went back to Mallet Garden to find the trainer that the message in a bottle mentions, a reoccurring side quest in this game, and if you go back you can find a recreation of the Nugget Bridge from Gen 1, beating 5 trainers in exchange for a prize. And I mean it when I say it's a one-to-one recreation, the exact same parties used for all trainers, the literal only difference being the increased levels to suit this point of the game. And as it turns out, I went to the wrong place anyway, but it's cool because if I didn't go here instead of where the waste management guys are, who have the Alolan Grimer and Mug, where the message in a bottle guy actually is, I wouldn't have found out about the Nugget Bridge thing, so it's cool. Onward to the ghost trial against Totem Mimikyu, and since a good bunch of my team were resistant to a lot of its attacks and strong against the backup Pokemon, I cleared the trial with no losses at all. We quickly wipe the floor with Plumeria, and after a new brief run-in with Faber, we make our way into Po Town, and it's still dripping with that eerie atmosphere that I love so much. I took down Guzma and his grunts with no issue, the same with Gladion right after, and again with Nanu and finally obtaining the Dark-type Z Crystal to give to Shadow. Though I did sadly lose Fiona quite soon into the Aether Foundation, so I added Lux, the Totem Lurantis I got from Oak, and after grinding them to a decent level. I don't remember this being in Sun and Moon, but during the raid on the Foundation, if you talk to Gladion on the bottom floor, you get more insight into his mindset on his mother and his similarities to type Null, which is nice. I love that little bit of extra character building for him. After the Team Skullgrunt and Guzma, we find the Recon Squad guarding the door to Lucamine's room, requesting that we give them a show of strength before moving on. They still only have a Pole, but now it's at a much higher level. But in a surprising turn of events, they reveal that Lucamine has actually agreed to help them, hence the battle just now. Speaking of, now we've got the confrontation against Lucamine directly, I can finally get into something that I've been itching to talk about. While she does retain her villainous edge that she had in Sun and Moon, she's been through a pretty drastic rewrite. They seem to be really going out of their way here to keep her in as good of a light as possible while still being a villain, not being as harsh towards her children, peppering in statements about saving the world via her own means, more positive, loving language slipped into her dialogue and emphasizing the tragedy of her backstory with her missing husband, and in my opinion, it cheapens Lily and Gladion's character arc of overcoming their abusive mother, plus the implication of her having a mental break when her husband went missing was still present in the original game. In fact, it ironically makes her actions more understandable in the original Sun and Moon since she clearly went off the deep end, whereas she seems mostly lucid and coherent in Ultra Sun and Moon. Now, I have a little theory about why they did this, a game theory if you will. Lucamine ended up being a very popular character, to the point she became a very prominent part of the Sun and Moon anime, where she was portrayed as a caring and genuinely good mother. Now, Pokemon is no stranger to changing character personalities drastically for different adaptations. Sabrina from Gen 1 in the anime and Lance being a villain in the Adventures manga come to mind as much earlier examples, but I think the heaviness of the subject matter caused them to backpedal in an attempt to keep her as somewhat appealing, leading to changes we see in Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon. As you can probably tell, I think her original portrayal is much more effective, but I don't think she's ruined here or anything. I can see why someone would prefer this version of her, pushing loved ones away to defend them against Necrozma instead. The Recon Squad present a new reason for going to Pony Canyon too, having their own way to travel through Ultra Space since they now see Lucamine's actions as reckless. We finally land on Pony Island, and Mina actually has something to do this time around, having a trial since she's doing her job as a captain for a change. But her trial will have to wait as we need to find Hapu. We still go to Executor Island after Hapu is chosen as the new kahuna, but we go it alone instead of with Lily this time, meaning that little bit of the two chatting I liked in the original is completely gone. The island itself has been expanded a bit though, having to help the Alolan Executors out since the other wild Pokemon are giving them grief. I lost Sunny to one of the pincers bothering them, which was sad. It was my first cult Pokemon. So the fact that I got it all the way here is, it meant something. So the Totem Vikavolt that I just got, Biggie Bolt, will avenge him. We get the Sun Flute, beat the Grunts and get the Poison Z Crystal from Plumeria, and we're onto the vast Pony Canyon. We have to fight Dulce again, which was purely a war of attrition, before Hapu assures the recon squad that we'll help stop Necrozma however we can. We have our battle with the Totem Komodo, and it might be the easiest one so far, especially since Honko and Amp were pretty good counters, and I managed to grab the Dragon Z Crystal with no losses. The player, Lily and Hapu make their way up to the ruins, perform their sick flute concert, with the energy it unleashes turning Nebby into Solgaleo. Just as they're about to chase after Lusamine and Guzma, the pair are kicked out right in front of us, with a pissed off Necrozma responsible. Lusamine begs Lily to run, however, it and Solgaleo engage in battle first, the clash causing the pair to fuse together, being the explanation for the outbreak of Ultra Beast this time around. The extended cast gets some time to shine too, showing how his grandpa, Olivia, Nanu and Hapu taking on these new threats. However, we need to battle the newly fused Necrozma. The name of this form I had to look up since it totally slipped my mind. This is Duskmane Necrozma, and the Lunala fusion being Dawnwings Necrozma. Defeating it causes the creature to retreat back into Ultra Space as a massive swirling mass of darkness coats the region. The Ultra Squad state Necrozma has managed to steal Alola's light, and with the encouragement of everyone here, Lusamine and Guzma included, we borrow a Lunala belonging to the Ultra Squad to travel through a wormhole into Necrozma's hideaway. It's not just a cutscene either, we have this dedicated minigame where we need to collect energy balls to build up flight and travel to the correct world. Now, this presented a small problem for me. This is all controlled via gyro controls, and on my very not emulated 3DS, wink wink, I didn't realise I needed to use this feature at all, so after quite a bit of trial and error, I managed to get to my destination, Ultra Megaopolis. I love this name, by the way, it sounds like a 5-year-old came up with it. We meet more Recon Squad members who explain Necrozma is resting in the tower ahead of us, and after a short climb up, we come face to face with the reason I've kept my XP share on throughout Pony Canyon. Ultra Necrozma, one of the hardest bosses in Pokemon history. You can't cheese it just by catching it with a Master Ball either, you'll have to put the work in. However, I did have a secret weapon to cheese this infamous boss. Shadow's illusion ability will make it think it's my Primarina, so it will keep trying moves that don't affect it. I gave Shadow the Zoroark a stat boost and a Z move, and that was all she wrote. I don't even feel the slightest bit guilty either. This boss is like stupidly difficult unless you know going in what counters it and how to prepare. With the Pokemon beaten, it retreats and light has returned back to the Alola region, and for our efforts we get a Poipole of our own before we come home. We can now also use the Ultra Wormholes anytime we want, doing that minigame to find other Pokemon with increased shiny odds, and even legendaries and mythicals from past titles. However, given the aforementioned issues with the gyro controls, I won't be going through all that again, since there's no further story significance, and yeah, with this setup it is just plain annoying to get to work. Plus, we've still got an Island Challenge and Pokemon League to beat. Fun fact, when this game came out, I didn't know about the increased shiny chance, so I kept doing the Ultra Wormhole minigame thinking I was just getting stupidly lucky with shinies until a friend broke the news to me. In a turn of events, Lusamine concedes she went about things wrong and returns to the Aether Paradise to care for the weakened Solgaleo with Lily in tow. And right after everything's sorted, Mina rocks up. How convenient for her to be showing up when there's no work to do. I'm watching you. Nah, I'm messing. Mostly. She offers to take us back to her place for a trial, a battle against her, which seems simple enough, except it isn't, because we have to go back to the previous captains and collect items from them, via winning in a battle, obviously. In between this, we get a really sweet interaction with Hao and Guzma. I feel about the latter the complete opposite I do about Lusamine, with the added content giving him even more depth to what I feel was already a pretty layered character. With the petals collected, we can battle a total Ribombee, of which I managed to take down in a single hit, earning the Fairy-type Z Crystal. Hapu greets us the second we're out the door, saying she'll be on Executor Island for her grand trial, and Honko, Lux, and Biggie Bolt absolutely rocked her shit. Time for our climb up Victory Road, and I completely fucking forgot about the desert again, didn't I? I quickly went through it and got my Pokemon for the route and the Psychic Z Crystal there off screen, and we've got our little battle with Gladion before anything first. He took out Biggie Bolt, but I did manage to win. I switched in Clamps the Anorith, hopefully I can evolve him into an Almaldo before the end of Victory Road, and the way its traverse has been switched up too, involving a good mixture of cave exploration and mountainous areas. Along the way, you can find Necrozma crumpled in a meteor, presumably having fallen here after our previous battle. You can choose to give it some light from your Z Crystal, and if you do, you can battle and try to catch it, complete with its own Z Crystal. Colress drops in to congratulate us and gives us a device that's able to fuse Necrozma with Solgaleo or Lunala at any time. I'm glad they actually have a use for him other than being a one-off cameo like before. It makes sense he's the one to give us this, given his past history with Kyurem, Zekrom, and Reshiram. The IC Crystal can be found here just like before too, and at the summit you can find the Alolan Vulpix you looked after near the start of the game, an adorable little detail. For the Pokemon League, my team ended up being Clamps the Armaldo, Lux the Lurantis, Clubbo the Alolan Marowak, Shadow the Zoroark, Ant the Toucanon, and Honko the Primarina. You get an additional little cutscene after Kukui with your starter here, which is very, very cute. I started with Acerola, who got absolutely curb stomped. Olivia was next, and although her team here is much cooler than the original, being more fossil focused, it wasn't enough to take down a single party member. I battled Kahili after, and I did manage to win, but I lost Shadow in the process. And lastly, we have a new Elite Four member replacing Hala, Mulliane, specialising in Steel types. I was most worried about his Bishop and Metagross, but thankfully I beat him without losing any more Pokemon. In Sun and Moon, Kukui ended up being the final battle for the title of champion. Not anymore though, this time Hao steps up to the plate. He did manage to take Ant down, but I won and became the champion of the Alola region once again. The credits roll as the extended cast returned to Icky Town for the celebration. I'm pretty sure I mentioned it last time, but the sight of Gladion smiling to see his sister happy is so wholesome. We do get some additions in the credits too, showing Guzma disbanding Team Skull, but the gang staying loyal regardless. I love these idiots, they're so cute. And we get peeks of Dexio, Cena, and Zygarde, plus Colress and the Ultra Recon Squad helping the Aether Foundation. Mina's joined in the festival too, and we see Gladion venturing on his own instead of Lily, with Foundation employees, Wiki, and soon his mother waving him farewell. Gotta say, the little sprite of the dancing totem Pokemon is very cute too. As is par for the course for these videos though, we've still got the post-game to look into. Hao comes to our home and says we've been requested by someone, except it's the Ultra Recon Squad this time. They ask us to help catch an Ultra Beast that's arrived in Pony Island. This is very similar to the post-game of the original Sun and Moon. I'm just going to go over what is lifted directly from that briefly. I won't be covering it in any great depth here since I already did that in the Sun and Moon video. We've got the 4 Tapus, the champion rematches against other NPCs and Pokemon-specific Z Crystals, as well as other totem Pokemon when collecting more stickers. The other ones I haven't gotten being Mimikyu and Ribombe. There's the battle tree in that restricted section of Pony Island in the battle against Red or Blue. Looker and Alabelle do make a quick cameo here too. They don't have significant roles in the post-game unlike before, but it's nice they get a brief cameo at least. Before we can go meet them though, I need to do two things. One, replace Ant and Shadow. Remember Klee the Umbreon from ages back? Well, now it's her time to shine, finally. I've also added Eldrina the Smoochum, now a Jinx as well. And two, go after Solgaleo, which can be found right next to Iki Town. When you arrive at Pony Grove, Wiki will be waiting for you to give you Type Null and its type drives too. The Ultra Beast we're looking for is named Blacephalon, what I can only describe as a biblically accurate clown. Speaking of Ultra Beasts, you can catch more, but you do need to travel to their world via that Ultra Wormhole minigame, which I mentioned I'm not going to do as I can't get gyro controls to work properly. I did try, because the visuals are cool, but I just couldn't get it to work. Granted, it is a really cool addition to be able to see their native worlds, but it's purely a visual spectacle in a single battle with them, nothing more than that, so I didn't think it was essential for this video. Poipole, which evolves into Nagandel when leveled up after learning Dragon Pulse. The aforementioned Blacephalon and the Ultra Moon exclusive Stakataka are the only new additions anyway, so as a consolation for not getting to see their respective worlds, I'll quickly rank my least favourite to favourite Ultra Beast, I guess. You're welcome. Celesteela is my least favourite, I just think it's really boring looking. I feel about the same for Stakataka and Blacephalon, but I think I like the weirdness of the latter a tiny bit more. Xurkitree is next, followed by Pheromosa, Kartana, Nihilego, Buzzwole's up here for funny points, Poipole and Nagandel. I also think the implication that it's the Ultra Space equivalent of a starter is a really dope detail, and the big dog himself, Guzzlord. I will give a cool shout out. If you go to Guzzlord's world, it's a common theory that it was almost identical to ours, but he just ate everything in sight, and what we see is an abandoned Howley city, as the background music is a corrupted, choppy version of its theme. Moving on, we cut to the next day where Sophocles barges into the player's house, begging for help. The festival plaza has been taken over, and when we go to check it out, it's been shifted into a castle bearing the Team Rocket logo. That foreshadowing that Looker gave at like the start of the game is paying off finally. And yep, when we step inside, we find a bunch of grunts making themselves at home. In order to clear them out, we need to beat them in a battle using randomized Pokemon, which I gotta admit is a fun little feature. I always got a kick out of this in the side modes of Pokemon Colosseum and XD Gale of Darkness back in the day. And I also can't believe I got a legendary here. That is just hilarious to me. I don't know if it's like you get these Pokemon specifically for this particular battle, but I hope it's random and I just lucked out and got an Articuno for no reason. Winning the battle gives Sophocles enough time to kick them out and get the festival plaza back to normal, and once we get back home, we see a press conference of the Aether Foundation being overrun by Team Rainbow Rocket. Gotta be honest, don't know why the rainbow part's been added, but my headcanon is Giovanni found out his son Silver's gay and did what companies do in Pride Month, but like to the absolute extreme. We head on over to the Foundation, where Wiki explains Rainbow Rocket have taken Lusamine hostage. The player battles a bunch of grunts, ending with Faber and an Aether employee in a double battle with Lily, who now possesses a Pokemon of her own, Clefairy. But she's not the only one on our side. Your boy Guzma comes in clutch to help us out. We even get another double battle with him this time, hell yeah. In the route to the right, after a couple of rooms of memory puzzles, we end up finding Maxie of all people, the leader of Team Magma, pulled from his universe just as his plan to expand the Earth was coming to pass. I find it notable they went with his original Gen 3 design here, as opposed to his updated Oras look. And just to show this is a Maxie who had completed his plans, he even has a Groundon in his party. The left route features the Certified HUD classic that is warp puzzles, ending in a fight with none other than Archie, again from a world where he ended up succeeding in expanding the sea. His Kyogre was far scarier than Groundon was though, bringing looks down to 3 HP, but I managed to beat him and move on to the next section, opening up 2 paths upstairs. Also, I thought these two knew that each other were here. But no, apparently not. They seem really surprised to see each other, and I really like how the second they see each other, it's just on sight. But before they can act on anything, they're pulled back into their own worlds. The next leader we find is Cyrus, and I need to know what his perfect world looks like. Did he just get pulled out of the abyss from Dark Souls? Like, was he just like, oh, I'm chilling in a void, and now I'm here? Damn. A bit of continuity I do like is him taking an active interest in your Rotom decks before the battle, since it's known Cyrus has an affinity for machines and has a soft spot for Rotom specifically. One thing I was quite curious about was his ace, since Maxie and Archie had Groundon and Kyogre respectively. That made me wonder if Cyrus is going to have Dialga, Palkia, or both, maybe even Giratina, but they got around this in what I believe is quite a clever way. Here he has Dialga, but in Ultramoon he'll use Palkia. Next up is Lysander, who explains the second he fired the ultimate weapon, he was brought here, and presents us with a similar setup to back in X and Y. The two buttons behind him, one will allow you to progress, the other one fires his ultimate weapon, and he'll claim that you activated the ultimate weapon regardless of what button you press. And that the other one will deactivate the weapon within a time limit, and he's going to battle you to stall. All of the remixes of the boss themes have been fine, but nothing standout for me personally. But Lysander's goes stupidly hard. I already liked his original theme, but this is on a whole nother level. And on top of that, they let him use his Mega Gyarados along with Xerneas here and Yveltal and Ultramoon. What's with the Lysandra love? I'm not complaining, I'm just confused. Anyways, we clap him, stop the weapon, and move on, since the portal in Lily's room is active now. However, some of you might notice that somebody is missing. Well, when we approach the panel, we're greeted with Father of the Year, Getsis, who plans on using Giovanni as a frontman so he can consolidate power behind his back, much like his original plan with N back in Black and White 1. His remix is really good too. Lysandra's is, although suiting for a boss, much more of like a bop that you can listen to outside of the game, whereas this one is just pure menace, complete with the iconic chanting of his name. He ends things off with Zekrom as opposed to Reshiram in Ultramoon. Once he loses, in true Getsis fashion, he crashes out, taking Lily hostage and threatening to outright kill her if we don't give him our Pokémon. Although his threats are in vain, since Colress drops in and forces the Team Plasma leader back into his own world. Last but not least, we have Giovanni himself to deal with. He's not just set on making that cheddar anymore, he's expanding to a multiversal level threat. Gotta dream big, I suppose, at least he's always got something he's pushing towards. He uses ground types much like his original gym battle, but with a Rhyperior instead of a Rhydon, ending with Mewtwo, using the X Mega Stone here and the Y Stone in Ultramoon. The Mewtwo alone made the fight tough, but once we win, Giovanni agrees to leave, but ominously states that Rainbow Rocket will never truly vanish, bowing out to this amazing rock rendition of the Team Rocket encounter theme from the original Red and Blue. With him leaving, the Aether Foundation returns to normal, though not without a quick scene of Giovanni trying to decide where to conquer next, which I believe ties into his introduction into the mobile game Pokemon Go, since, Team Rocket was just being introduced there at the time, I think. So, apparently Giovanni made his way into our world from Ultra Space. And you know what? I just got a DM from him, actually. He says he's going to dox you unless everyone who watches this subscribes, likes, comments, and gets me up to 1 million views on every video. But I told him not to, but he was just really insistent. I'm sorry, guys. Though Ultra Sun and Moon do have some pretty stark differences, I feel like they come too far towards the latter half of the game, and though I vastly prefer this post-game to the original, I can't say that this is the definitive version of the Alola games. Granted, it greatly expands on the wild Pokemon available and goes further in on the battle gimmicks with additional Z crystals, As someone who really likes the narrative of Sun and Moon, some of the changes they decided to make to it weakens the experience for me, which is really frustrating. If you care solely about the gameplay and nothing else, I would absolutely say to stick with just the Ultra games, but if you care about Alola's cast, I think you're doing yourself a disservice by not playing the original Sun and Moon. I really do believe the lack of substantial changes in the first half of the game was maybe one of the straws that broke the camel's back for fans regarding additional versions, as this was the last time the Pokemon Company would do this, going for DLC expansions going forward. Of course, this isn't the only reason, it's also just the way the industry is heading. My personal recommendation, both the original and the Ultra games have something to offer. They're well-crafted adventures, but it's probably best to take a good break between them to avoid fatigue if you decide to go through both. And that is going to do it for this video, and I really want to know people's opinions of Ultra Sun and Moon compared to Sun and Moon, because I see a lot of, like, divisiveness in the fan base with this, so I'm really curious what do people prefer Sun and Moon, do people prefer Ultra Sun and Moon, and, like, why? I would really like to get a discussion going about that. I want to thank you all for watching. If you liked the video, then yeah, please give it a like and subscribe if you want to see more. I'm probably going to be taking a little bit of a break from Pokemon videos. I'm kind of a bit burnt out on the series, if I'm honest, and also I still don't know where my capture card is, so I can't record any of the further games in the series. So I'm not sure when I'm going to make another one. I might do some side stuff that aren't big videos. I don't know. Maybe like some challenge runs on some of the earlier games. Maybe cover some of the spin-offs. I don't know. I haven't decided. I don't even know what the next video is going to be. It might be Guilty Gear. Who knows? If anyone has any like video recommendations, if there's anything in particular people want me to check out, I'm more than open to suggestions as well. Like, if it comes down to it, depending on personal circumstances, I might just get another capture card. I know I don't want to do that, though, because I know it's in my loft somewhere. I just haven't really gone up there since moving, because there's not a lot of places to put things. That's all personal stuff. It's not important. It's not very interesting. I will try to look for it properly at some point, but I'm just quite busy in my personal life, so if there's any series that I haven't covered that people want to see, please leave suggestions as well. It can be suggestions for, like, literally anything within reason, pretty much, and I'll respond to it as best I can. But thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all next time. Bye-bye.